everybody, welcome back to my channel. I absolutely love tea, and one of my favorite teas is chamomile tea. So today I thought I would walk you through how I grew this chamomile from seed and how to make chamomile tea fresh and dried. So let's go ahead and get started. Dies at the end of the season, and likely it's going to self-seed, whereas the Roman variety is the one that's a perennial variety, and apparently that one is a little less tastier than the German, but they're very similar in their properties. One other difference between the German and the Roman variety is the way that the flowers grow. So on the German variety, as you can see, there's multiple stems per flower, or multiple flower heads per stem, whereas with the Roman variety there will only be one flower head per stem. So that's one good way to identify or know which one you are growing, because the first year for me I had no idea which one I was growing, so just a little helpful hint there. Oh, it's hot out here. I started this chamomile patch or plant, or since it's not really just a single plant, I planted this originally here in this location last year in the springtime. I'm sure it was in April, and it was actually behind a bunch of cucumbers, so it was smothered out a little bit and it didn't get as much attention as I would have loved, so I didn't capitalize on all of the chamomile tea that I needed. But to start it, I just put the seeds in the ground out here. I just sprinkled them out like I typically do, and I covered it with soil and kept it watered for at least a week or so. I kept it watered with the rest of the garden, so it was easy to do. They don't like to be soaking wet. They prefer dry weather, so just keep that in mind. You might want to plant it in an area where you have well draining soil. In this area, this was originally a no-dig bed, and it's kind of just good soil at this point, so we just put it here. And I would say in 2 to 3 months I started seeing buds, and it was really beautiful. The great thing about chamomile is when you touch it, it smells like green apples. Like, it smells nothing like what you smell in those bags that you get at the grocery store. It smells like citrus almost. So it was nice to just be able to brush up against it and get the smell of citrus. It's very easy to grow chamomile. You really don't have to do anything once the plant starts to get established, but harvest your chamomile leaves. It's very easy to harvest chamomile for tea. You just want to take the top of the flower head and just peel it back like that. Sorry for my dirty hands, but I won't use this for the tea. And you're just taking the flower. You can use the leaves in the tea, but apparently it's a little bit more bitter. But maybe we should try that. Maybe we should try making some tea with the leaves too. So let's take one with some leaves. You've made it 2 to 3 months in and you're starting to see flowers. I will caution you when you are reading these packets, when they say, okay, you'll start to see flowers in 7 or 8 weeks, you'll probably start with just enough flowers for it to be beautiful before you get an onslaught of flowers, enough for you to make some tea. So just be patient with that. Once it starts flowering, you will likely see flowers through autumn. For me, it's really like the heat of summer where the plant kind of just shuts down. So just be patient, and I promise you tea is coming. So let's get started. I will show you what I have here and we can get into making the tea. So let's start cracking. I should be using these amounts. But if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't like to follow instructions when it comes to food, and I tend to add more to the tea. Now, if you're doing this for medicinal purposes, please be careful, just in case anything you're taking may interact with any pre-existing conditions you have or any medication you may be taking. But for this purpose, I think it's safe for me to add a little bit more if I need to. For the sake of this experiment though, I'm going to stick with the recommended amount. That way you guys have a true experience and true feedback on what the suggestion is. Okay, let's go. I prepared 3 different vessels for the 3 different teas. The elegant Chinese teapot that I have here is filled with the fresh leaves. The Moroccan teapot that I have here is filled with the dry leaves. And my regular Nespresso mug is filled with the dried and fresh mix in the tea ball that I have here with my little teacup cover so that it can steep nice. I have some freshly boiled water over here that I'm going to go ahead and fill these containers up with. I'm going to do 8 ounces of water in each of these, and we're going to brew them for 10 minutes. So let's go ahead and start brewing. Okay, so I have everything set up. I have the fresh pot in front of the fresh cup and the dried in front of the darker one for dried, because usually when the herbs are dried they're darker. So this is my way of trying to remember. And I have the mixed cup here, and that's in front of this cup. I also have a little bit of honey here to sweeten up the deal. So let's see how they taste. I'm going to go ahead and pour a little into each and a little bit of honey, and I'm going to let you guys know what I think. All right, so these have been brewing for over 10 minutes at this point. Let's just pour some here. And it's a nice bright yellow. The fresh it's actually, oh my God, I could smell it from here. But I can see that it's a little bit darker than I was expecting. But it's a nice bright yellow and it smells amazing. This metal, I guess this is stainless steel pot is very hot. So if you have a teapot like this, make sure you're using a towel or some sort of oven mitt. I'm going to use a little towel and we'll pour a little bit in there. And this is about the same, actually it's a little bit darker. The dried one is a little bit darker than the fresh. And we have a non-teapot. This is more of a teacup. I should just drink from a teacup, right? All right, so as you can see, this is pretty light compared to the other two. Let's see if I can not spill this. And it's a little spillage, not much. Okay, it wouldn't be me if I didn't spill anything. Okay, all right. So I have my 3 different versions. And I can tell you right from the get-go that the dried one is definitely the darkest. The fresh is second darkest, and the one that I had a mixture of the dried, fresh, and the leaves is the lightest. And honestly, it could be that I poured just a little tiny bit too much water in it, but we'll see. Okay, so we'll put a little bit of honey in all. And I don't like a lot of honey, so this should do for all three. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and try the fresh. Actually, let's work our way up from the lightest to the darkest. That way I don't disappoint myself. Okay, so this one is the mix of the flowers and the leaves. So yeah, guys, my recommendation is not to mix in the leaves. This one is bitter. It's definitely bitter. It still kind of tastes good, but it's bitter. So if you're making chamomile tea and you're trying to determine whether to use the leaves or not, my recommendation is not to use the leaves because this tea is definitely bitter. Okay, moving on to the fresh. Maybe I should get some water. Let's get some water so I can freshen my mouth up. Okay, now we have the fried. I'm clearly hungry. Now we have the fresh chamomile tea. Wow, this one is kind of bitter too. Very interesting. All right, and here is the dry chamomile tea. Okay, the dried chamomile tea, in my opinion, is the best. It has the least amount of bitterness. When I made this tea last year, I always mixed it with some other greens. So I would mix the chamomile with lemon balm or whatnot, just because I didn't have so many flowers that I can make just a full pot. And I'm actually surprised that it is as bitter as it is. So with the dried flowers, I had the least amount of bitterness, and maybe we need just a little bit more honey. But on the good side, it does have this like really nice smooth earthiness to it too. So this tea is mostly used for helping people with sleep. It's also used to help with digestive issues. So it helps to relax your digestive system, and it also has antioxidants, so it's boosting your immune health overall. So it's said to fight cancer and help with blood sugar and do a lot of good things for your body. So even if it's a little bitter, maybe it might be worth it. So this is my take on fresh chamomile tea from start to finish. So I went back and double checked because deep down I knew that I was over steeping the tea. And I did find that I probably should have steeped it for half of the amount of time. And like I said, I knew that, but I wanted to follow the instructions in the book to show how great of a book it is. But you have to kind of get information from all different sources and research the flour that you are using specifically. So even though I knew I oversteeped it, I will say that this is still a learning lesson. You still learn something. You learn what happens when you oversteep chamomile tea. It tastes like a nail salon and it's very bitter. And you know that the dried tea is much more flavorful because it's more concentrated, and you can see that in the color of the tea. You also know that the fresh leaves are very flavorful too, maybe not as potent as the dry, but they're still very delicious. And you'll also learn that leaves are probably not that great in the tea, because even though the mix of the plant material that I use for the mixed tea, even though it was less, it still had the most bitter flavor. So that just, to me, speaks volumes. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe, and leave your comments in the comment section below. Okay. Let me go get the dogs. I look forward to talking to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.